Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mart Veliste, and I'm from the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, and I will be the moderator of this event today. Together with me is my colleague Erik and Valentin. And we are from the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, then organizing this event on trails and routes for tourism development. We're expecting today very nice attendance because we had a great interest in this event. I think around 180 people had registered. And it just shows that this topic of tourism is something that interests regions across Europe very much. And also in our community, we have a lot of projects working on tourism. So these things are correlated as well. As you can see, you are only able to see me and later the other speakers. So this is the way the webinar has been technically set up, but we encourage you to engage actively and ask your questions in the chat, because we will be taking those then from the chat and facilitating this dialogue with the speakers through these means. So even though you cannot voice the question with audio yourself, then we will give voice to your questions and you will still get the answers. And I encourage you to ask any clarifying questions or some provocative, difficult questions. If you think that there's a good opportunity to open up a discussion, then please do so. We will also be sharing different materials and links in the chat because with us is also our colleague Valentin from our events team. She's logged in under the Policy Learning Platform name. So also if you have some technical issues, she can help resolve those and answer you on these topics. And as you can see, the event is also being recorded. So today's agenda is that I will say still a few words of introduction on the topic, as well as on the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform for those who are maybe less familiar with it. And then we will have the keynote presentation by Crina from the European Institute of Cultural Routes, which is connected to the Council of Europe's Cultural Routes initiative already since 1987. I hope I said it correctly now. And then we have our two good practices coming from different parts of Europe, but they're not so far away from each other this time, but they're both coming from Belgium. But representing two good practices from the Interreg Europe community, how these routes and trails have also been set up. And they're representing two projects of the Interreg Europe community. So from the Mart project, we have Veronique, and from the Cherry project, we have Jeroen. And then we end the day with a panel discussion, sort of a broader discussion on the topic of how the routes and trails can be used to promote tourism, to uphold cultural heritage, and so on. So I hope this will be an exciting webinar for you to follow. Just a few words on the Policy Learning Platform is that we sort of are I don't know, a mediator or a platform, where we bring together expertise, people, and knowledge. So the way we do it is that we have a team of specialists situated across Europe working on different thematic topics. So me and my colleague Erik, we are covering social Europe, under which also tourism falls. But then we have also colleagues working on innovation, sustainability, and other subtopics of the cohesion policy. And it's in a one way, the Policy Learning Platform is an online repository of resources, so a website. So you can find different good practices across Europe on different policy areas. We publish policy briefs, we write stories. The webinars, as this one, are recorded, and the recordings are also available on our website. And then also we always like to emphasize that it's more about the community, the connections you make with other local, regional, national authorities, university representatives, and other stakeholders. And these are people you get to meet through our workshops, our webinars, and other activities. So we have over 20,000 people across Europe involved, a lot of different organizations. So you can also potentially find contacts and partners through our platform. And just to give you two examples of these topical resources that are available on the topic of tourism, just in the beginning of the year, Erik wrote an extensive policy brief on the economic benefits of tourism. And end of last year, we had also a workshop where we tackled the topic of alternative tourism. And there is also a summary report of the key insights available on the website. Something that's maybe more unique or less known about the platform is that we also provide tailored services to European local authorities. These are called peer reviews and matchmaking. They're open all the time, so there is no like a call date as you would have with projects. You can always approach these services through our website. They are available for public authorities, as I said. So in order to be eligible, you need to represent a public authority in charge of some policy. And what these services are is they are sort of like vehicles of tailored advice to your policy challenges. And maybe the best way to explain it is through some examples. So, for example, already in 2022, so quite long ago, we tackled the topic of tourism strategies in sort of an island context in Croatia, and we invited experts from Estonia, Norway, and Finland who had also worked with tourism in this sort of island settings, and we brought them to this region in Croatia, in Korsula, for 2 days of exchanges. Basically sitting around the seminar room table to really sort of explore what could be done as a next step or what could be adjusted in the current approach that Korsula was using for tourism promotion. And then the colleagues from Estonia, Norway, and Finland, they were bringing their insights from the work they had been doing in their region, sharing their best practices. So it's really, compared to a workshop where you have many attendees, different presentations, then the peer review is more of a hands-on meeting with like-minded specialists across Europe, trying to find the best solutions in your local setting. And the other service we have is called the matchmaking. This one we normally organize either online or as a side event to our workshops. These are shorter, usually lasting 2 hours, compared to the peer review, which is 2 days. But the principle is similar. If you have a policy challenge and you approach us, you can get tailored advice. And in this case, we had colleagues from Moldova getting advice on how to set up a tourism strategy and roadmap, because they were at the time in early stages of drafting this. And then we had experts coming from Italy, Slovenia, and Spain, sharing how they have set up their tourism strategies. So this is, I think, just to also illustrate that tourism is an eligible topic for our support services. And if this sounded interesting to you, don't hesitate to explore further and reach out to us. As I already hinted in the introductory words, tourism is one of the big subtopics of Interreg Europe. So on the screen, you can see that we have several projects working on the topic. Hopefully, I listed them all. And they tackle it from different sides. So some maybe focus more on slow tourism or alternative tourism. Some look at how to connect it with SDGs. We have projects working on religious heritage in particular. Some working on the capitals of culture and so on. So different nuances of how to better draft and adjust tourism policies across Europe. And yeah, I would say the common denominator really is that, how do we maintain the rich and diverse cultural heritage of Europe? And also then how can we make it as a driver of local development? This is sort of the underlying, I think, premise of all of these projects working on tourism. And the webinar, as such, is an opportunity for us to also share some good practices and enable further mutual learning on the topic. And in this case, we're specifically looking at these trails and routes. So how can these be a vehicle to give guidance to visitors, to link different local stakeholders, to maybe showcase some businesses, but also then how to still make maybe the local heritage more visible. And this is what we will be exploring with these nice examples that we will get to shortly. And I think this is where I would like to stop sharing my screen and invite our keynote from the Council of Europe, Crina, to say a few words about this great initiative and program you've had for several decades now. So to explain us how it works and what have been your results so far. So please feel free to share your screen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mart. Good morning to everybody. Just 1 second to share my screen. I hope that you can see it.
Yes, not in the presentation mode yet, so we need to go full. Yep, now it's there.
Yes. So, dear participants, dear everybody, thank you for being present today. I'm happy to represent today the European Institute of Cultural Roots. First of all, before giving you more context and information about our program, our institute, the main mission of the program in general for the promotion, of course, of the cultural heritage. First of all, I would like to give you a definition about what it is a cultural route of the Council of Europe, because we say that cultural routes are journeys to travel through space and time, but what it is exactly a cultural route? So first of all, it is a cultural and educational project that is based on heritage and tourism, and cultural route is focused on a historic route, on a personality, on a phenomenon, with a transnational dimension. And of course, each cultural route has to promote the common European values, such as human rights, democracy, and rule of law. To give you more context about the program of cultural routes of the Council of Europe, it was created in 1987 with Santiago de Compostela Declaration. Already mentioned to you that cultural routes are seen as cooperation networks that promote heritage, culture, and tourism. As of today, we have 49 certified cultural routes that cross Europe and even go beyond. The main objectives of the program are the promotion and the understanding of European heritage and cultural identity, the enhancement of the democratic cultural exchanges and cultural tourism, and the support for a more sustainable local development with the fostering of active participation. The program of cultural routes of the Council of Europe has two important pillars, which are the enlarged partial agreement on cultural routes on one side, and on the other side, the European Institute of Cultural Routes, which I represent directly. So to give you more about our institutional setup, as already mentioned, the program was born within the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, in France, but the secretariats of both pillars are located in Luxembourg. So to give you more information about each of these two pillars, first of all, the European Institute of Cultural Routes was created in 1998 And it is the technical agency of the program that gives technical support for certified cultural routes and candidate networks, and it also coordinates the certification evaluation cycles. And also the Institute coordinates the University Network for Cultural Routes Studies. Also, at the European Institute of Cultural Routes, we have a specialized library on cultural routes and also archives related to cultural routes of the Council of Europe. On the other side, we have the Enlarged Partial Agreement on Cultural Routes, which was established in 2011. Currently, it involves 43 member states, meaning that their representatives from 43 member states from ministries of cultures, ministries of tourism. The main goal of this enlarged partial agreement was to support politically the program and also to decide the strategy of the program in general. The main mission of the enlarged partial agreement is to award the certification cultural route of the Council of Europe. As already mentioned to you, as of today, we have 49 cultural routes of the Council of Europe, with latest certifications in 2025, which are Romea Strata, St. Francis Ways, and Pyrenean Freedom routes. You could see from this mosaic that the cultural routes of the Council of Europe have a lot of themes which are very diverse. So talking about this diversity of themes, we have some thematic clusters of cultural routes of the Council of Europe. So some of them invite you to explore the architecture, the art. Some of cultural routes are an invitation to discover more the religious heritage, the landscape, the handicrafts, history and civilizations, and also the themes related to early Europeans. In terms of typologies, we also have three types of cultural routes. We have linear routes, territorial routes, and reticular pattern. When it comes to linear routes, these are normally historical routes with a historical infrastructure, meaning that there is a clear start point and a clear end point of the route. We have, for example, here Santiago de Compostela route, we have Via Francigena, so there is a start point and an end point of the route. For the territorial routes, they have this territorial contiguity, meaning that the theme of route is shared geographically. So there is no specifically a start point, but the theme is shared geographically by the members of the route. And here I could give the example of Itervitis, which is a territorial route. Then we have this reticular pattern, which are also called virtual routes. Generally speaking, for this kind of routes, they link the heritage landmarks, monuments, cities that share a unique theme. For example, European route of Mozart Ways. Then one of the most important documents of our program is, of course, the resolution that revises the rules for awarding the cultural route of the Council of Europe certification. In order to be a cultural route of the Council of Europe, you have to satisfy this list of eligibility criteria for themes. You have to satisfy the list of priority fields of action, and you have to satisfy the list of criteria for networks. In terms of the eligibility criteria for themes, each theme from our certified cultural routes are representative of European values. And also the themes are researched by multidisciplinary groups of experts. Here, just to say you more that each cultural route has a scientific committee with experts from different fields. Also, the theme should be illustrative of European memory, history, and heritage, and of course, deeply connected with today's European cultural diversity. Also, the theme should lend itself to cultural and educational exchanges for young people, and at the same time should lend to cultural tourism and sustainable cultural development. For the second criteria, which is very important, priority fields of action, each cultural route should implement activities related to these 5 fields of action. So you have cooperation in research and development, meaning that cultural routes are organizing different activities promoting the cooperation. They organize different seminars, conferences, symposiums. They may publish different scientific papers. Also, we have this second field of action, which is enhancement of memory, history, and European heritage. And in this case, cultural routes networks that want this certification, they are required to implement activities that enhance this European heritage, and they organize different exhibitions, different congresses. Also, we have a third field of action, which is cultural and educational exchanges for young Europeans. And in this case, cultural routes are implementing activities with a specific focus on young people, meaning that they will have different twinning schools, summer camps, different contests with different prizes for students and young people. Then we have the contemporary cultural and artistic practice, in which cultural routes are invited to organize activities such as dance competitions, photograph competitions, music performances, historical reenactments. Also, we have the last field of action, which is cultural tourism and sustainable cultural development. And in this last field of action, cultural routes are invited to implement policies and organize activities that show a clear promotion of a sustainable cultural development. Here they are invited to cooperate closely with different tourism offices, to participate in different tourism fairs, and to develop different apps and guides on cultural tourism. Then we have a third criteria, which is criteria for networks. So each cultural route has a legal status within an association or a federation of associations. And here it's important to mention that each network that wants to apply for the certification should have its legal status that at least 2 years prior to submission, meaning that it should exist at least 2 years before deciding to apply for certification. Also, each cultural route has this transnational network, meaning that each cultural route has a diversity of members, from local to regional authorities, to cultural association, to tourism operators and organizations. And also, of course, each managing body of a cultural route should function in a democratic way, with a democratic governance, and to be financially viable. Then what makes this certification unique, and what is the added value of certified cultural routes of the Council of Europe? First of all, we have this visibility and communication that allow these networks to be more visible in promoting the European heritage, and we have the capacity building, meaning that we have different events that are organized specifically for cultural routes of the Council of Europe. We have, for example, Training Academy, which is an annual activity specifically organized for the routes operators, in which we invite different international speakers. Also, we have annual advisory forum, which is one of the biggest events of our program. And during this annual advisory forum, all the stakeholders of our program are invited. So there will be the university network, so representatives of academia, there will be the routes operators, and there will be as well the member states from the Large Partial Agreement on Cultural Routes. Well, again, for the added value of a certification is, of course, the sustainable development, because here is important to mention that mostly of cultural routes, they cross rural areas, and they are also, according to the resolution, they have to implement activities that promote the sustainable development. And of course, we have the certification of quality and a regular evaluation, because here is to mention that cultural routes of the Council of Europe are evaluated each 5 years. So the certification is given for 5 years. And after these evaluations, the cultural routes networks, they receive tailored recommendations from our independent experts. Here is also to mention the funding opportunities, of course, of networks. They will have more visibility to apply for funding opportunities, and of course the community involvement, and to have more synergies, more networking, and more contacts. Here, just to give you more, let's say, hints about how cultural routes are tools for sustainable tourism. So, as already mentioned, cultural routes cross a lot of rural areas, and from the total of certified cultural routes, 90% are developing within the rural areas. Here, of course, we will have the integration of less known areas and the opportunity to build synergies. And well, just to summarize, because our theme is about trails and cultural routes for cultural and tourism development, cultural routes of the Council of Europe are seen as tools for sustainable tourism that boost the local economies and that represent a model for slow tourism that promote and protect the European heritage. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Crina, for this excellent presentation. I think very clear and easy to follow. Also answering several of my questions already, so I was like, okay, crossing them off on my list. But luckily, I'm assisted by our very active audience, who is also sharing a lot of questions in the chat. And I would give word to my colleague Erik to start asking some of these questions from you. So please, Erik.
Yes, we have many concrete questions. Maybe we can just go through them one by one. First, about certification. Are they certified at the national level or transnational level? First, maybe just to clarify.
Yes, so the certification is international certification because, as already mentioned, the Enlarged Partial Agreement on Cultural Routes is the one that, let's say, decides on awarding or not the certification. So each year we have a governing board meeting in which the representatives from 43 countries are meeting and deciding whether to award or not. Because within each, let's say, application that we receive, we have to contract then an independent expert, which will evaluate and will go have a field visit. Where is the headquarters of the network located? And then upon these evaluation files and the report prepared by the expert, the member states will give their decision. So it's an international recognition because it's a recognition by the Council of Europe.
Good. So just to be quite clear, an applicant does not go to need approval from national authorities before submitting the application.
No, but well, of course, we encourage them to reach to, let's say, to the representatives from their countries, because in this way they could have this expertise and to build more synergies, of course.
Excellent. The next question was on the University Network for Cultural Root Studies. And then our participant, Licia Calvi, would like to know where to apply. She cannot find the... Could you maybe share the link maybe after this meeting so we can send it out? Or
yes. I think I could share maybe even now the link actually where more information could be found. So on our website, I think I shared our link, my latest slide, but I will share here right now. Just 1 second. I'm sharing about the University Network, and on this link there is more information about the eligibility criteria. What do you do exactly with the University Network?
Excellent. I think that's very nice. If you can paste it directly, that's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's done.
I think you answered mostly the next question on who can initiate the creation of a cultural route and submit the application. You need to have legal status. You need 2 years of experience of practice or operation. So I think that has been mostly answered. The next question was quite interesting on this notion of territorial continuity. So the question comes from Macaronesia. So those are the islands from the Azores, Madeira, Canary Islands, and even outside of your Cape Verde Islands. Can they be considered as a route in terms of continuity, or how do you deal with archipelagos and like that?
Yes. Well, in terms of, because as already mentioned, the most important, let's say, document is the resolution that revises the certification criteria. Within our resolution, we do not really have a criteria of is your route a linear route, is your route a reticular route? No, this is mostly for us to give you, let's say, a whole picture that the routes are diverse and there are different types of routes, because normally you have this impression that, well, cultural route, of course, the most known one, Santiago de Compostela, St. James Way, it starts somewhere, it ends somewhere. But yes, as already actually mentioned, we have even members that are not from European continent. We have transhumance trails, and they have members from Mexico. So there is no this problem about only having members within the European continent.
Okay, and also then. Yeah, sorry.
And for the theme, well, this contiguity is that, let's say, yes, normally it's a theme that is shared regionally for this contiguity theme.
Okay, but concretely answering the notion of these islands, do they need to be connected by then regular transport to be considered continuous? Or
well, in this case, the most important should be that the theme should be something that unites all the members. That's the most important criteria. Great.
I think that's quite clarifying. Next question from Damien Howard relates to the criterion of financial viability. I'd like more details on how you assess that. Is it on the viability of the organization or of the development? How broadly do you assess financial viability?
Yes. So in terms of this financial viability, as mentioned to you, each cultural route has a managing body. So a network which has a legal status, and it is an association or a federation. And for us to be able to understand that the cultural route may implement activities related to those 5 fields of action, we have, of course, to assess if they have a budget. And normally, each cultural route has membership fees, because in order to implement activities, of course, we need a budget. But at the same time, besides these membership fees, we encourage cultural routes networks, of course, to apply for national, regional funds. And of course, to apply for European funds as well. And cultural routes, when they need our support in applying for a funding, of course, they contact us when we give a support letter. And if you can be more involved, you try to be there.
Excellent, thank you. The next question is actually a bit of the same, but broadening it on measuring it. Do you have tools to measure the sustainability of routes? This question comes from Zília Tovar from Coimbra in Portugal.
Yes, for the moment, we do not really have, let's say, some indicators that will clearly show the sustainability involvement, the sustainable involvement of the routes. But as already mentioned to you, the routes are evaluated every 5 years. And one of the criteria is the criteria within these 5 fields of action for cultural tourism and sustainable development. So within this report, the experts that we contract, they are contracted to evaluate if the activities that are implemented are, of course, related to promote the sustainable development. So this is how you evaluate at the moment. We don't really have some indicators, but last year when we had, because within this University Network for Cultural Studies, we also organize academic conferences. And last year, there was a proposal of indicators to measure the sustainability. So maybe in the future we'll have some real indicators on how to evaluate the sustainability of the routes.
Excellent. Maybe in connection to that, there is a question of the scientific committees linked to the route. Does each route has to have one? And then I imagine they also address issues such as sustainability, and how do they operate these scientific committees?
Yes. So for the scientific committees, each cultural route has a theme that should be researched, because this is the first criteria. It's the criteria for themes. So the theme should be already researched from a broader point of research, meaning that, for example, if the route has a specific focus on architecture, of course, within the scientific committee, we should have as well people that have, let's say, a specialization or on sustainable tourism. It's not only enough having people from architecture field. And cultural routes normally have, let's say, a planning of their scientific committee. So each scientific committee also have members from different countries, and they have meetings, they publish jointly different papers.
Excellent. There was also a very concrete question. Do the proposed route have to cross national borders, or is that not compulsory?
If they have to cross, yes, they do have to cross, because at the beginning of my presentation, I was mentioning this transnational dimension, because already the first, let's say, the first not criteria, the first rule before applying before applying to become a cultural route, you have to involve members from at least 3 European countries. So if you have only members from 2 countries, then in this case, you have to search for a different theme, or there should be at least 3 countries involved.
Excellent. I think the questions keep popping up, so we'll have to close at one point. I will take a very, I'm sorry, looking at the yes, it's about also it was a bit my question too, how do you build it up? The question was specifically on wine routes, which may be national networks, and if they could become members of cultural routes of Council of Europe. I imagine some kind of multi-level, you can imagine multiple layers in which you build up the cooperations.
Yeah, because here we have the certified cultural route, which is called Itervites. I have given the example for this regional shared theme, and they have as a legal network, they have a federation of associations. So it's already this umbrella of, let's say, multi-level managing of the route. But as already also mentioned, each route has a variety of members. So it could be an association, it could be a municipality, it could be a tourism office. So I think yes, but all our, actually, if someone present today wants, for example, to join a cultural route, on our website, we have their main contact details. So if they want to, they are invited to contact the routes managers directly.
Excellent. I think we have to break now, but it's great. Well, thank you very much to the audience. It's great when we can bombard our speakers like this. And thank you so much, Crina, for answering so effectively to all these points. But I think I pass on to Mart to move on to the next presentation.
Yes, and really it was like a quick fire round. Sometimes in game shows they do this. So it was really excellent. So thank you, Crina, for providing these answers, and for the audience. I hope you got your clarifications. We will see you then in a few minutes later in the panel discussion at the end. But now I would like to invite our second speaker, and we are in a way stepping away from these certified routes of Council of Europe, but we are going to still talk about how trails and routes can be used as a vehicle for tourism, even without this certification. And we have a great example coming now from West Flanders. So I invite Veronique to come on the stage. Please share your screen and tell us then how you are doing this cycling network in West Flanders.
Good morning, everybody. I am Veronique Victor. I am the team manager of the Department of Recreation in Westtoer, in West Flanders in Belgium. We will give you a short overview of our best practice of the cycling network. A short word about the functioning of a cycling network, the resources needed, the success factors, and potential learning for everybody. Just maybe a small trivia. We always try to use pictures of our own colleagues. We think it improves or it makes the pictures more authentic. So it's something that we try to do for all our marketing campaigns. So all these people are colleagues from Westtoer. Who are we? We are an autonomous provincial agency in charge of recreation and tourism in West Flanders, Belgium. We have 4 departments. Recreation, that's my department. We are in charge of developing all the products for cycling and walking. Then we have a marketing department, knowledge center, and a department for touristic development. Next to our cycling network that I will explain in this presentation, we have a lot more other products for cycling and walking. I won't go through them in detail, but you see here the overview. Then a small map just to show you that in Westtoer, in our province, we have 4 touristic regions that we work in. We have the coasts, we have the Westhoek, Brugse Ommeland, that's the region of Bruges and the surroundings, and then the Leestreek, that's the region of the River Lys. Now, what is it, a cycling network? When we construct a network, we try to link all the attractive and safe cycle paths in a network. And when 2 or more cycle routes intersect, this is called a node. It's a number. You can use these numbers to plan your own trip, and via route planners or physical maps, you can determine the length of the trip yourself because there is distant information on the map. I will show you after this slide a short example. In West Flanders, we have a cycling network since 2006. We did the first big renovation in 2016, and now we are in full preparation phase for the renovation next year in 2026. We do this so every 10 years, and we do this to keep up with the changing realities on the ground, because in 10 years' time, a lot of new infrastructure has been constructed, new cycling paths, cycling bridges, new musea that we want to link or take to the network. So that's something that we do every 10 years. We have 1,350 kilometers cycling network in our province. And I've added a link to a video that explains you in a really easy way how does it work. It's in Dutch, but you really don't need the translation or the speech because you can see it. So it might be useful for you to, if you don't know the system, to check this video afterwards. So this is a small example of a part of our cycling network. You see all the numbers, so that are the nodes, and they connect all the safe and quiet cycling routes. You can see between 2 nodes, there is distance information. So with this information, you can just click the different numbers. You can make your own routes. You can write the numbers down, or you can put them in your GPS for your cycling GPS. So it's a really user-friendly system. And at the right-hand side, you see the 4 maps. We have 4 cycling networks according to our 4 touristic regions that I mentioned before. The cycle network is signposted in both directions. At each junction, there is a sign with a number. So at the bottom, you see in green 96. That means at that moment, you are at node 96 and you have 2 choices. Either you go straight forward to node 49 or you go to the left. So it's a really easy system with numbers. If you have written them down, you can just follow the signs. And between the different junctions, we also repeat the signposts to make sure or to comfort the people that they are on the right track for following their nodes. The cycling network covers the whole province, but you can start your route everywhere. But we also provide a number of starting points that are fixed points that are easily accessible, that have free parking space. And there is an information board with an overview of the cycle network and the different nodes. So it's very common in Belgium and the Netherlands, but also in parts of France. They have, in the northern part, they have a cycling network, also parts of Germany and Austria. And also something we think it's important to mention, we work together with an external organization, it's called Inter, and they monitor the accessibility of a selection of routes, and they determine the bottlenecks for people, for example, in a wheelchair, or people who will go with a carrier with baby or with children behind them. So that's also really useful. This is a small example of it. Of such kind of route that has been screened for accessibility. The organization, they mention the bottlenecks. For example, the second one on the right, there are cobbles. It might be difficult for some people, so then we propose an alternative. That's the last picture, and it's also indicated on the map which alternative route that they can take to follow the cycling route. Now, the resources, what is necessary to make a cycle network? First of all, a good knowledge of the terrain and a solid network of stakeholders. We closely work together with all the local municipalities, with the province, governmental agencies to select the best and most safe cycle paths. Then, of course, you need budget for development. That is buying and installing the different signposting, the poles, but above all, also for the maintenance of the network, because if one sign is missing, that can really ruin the whole experience of the cycling tour. So it's really important that you have enough budget for that. And in Westtoer, we always try to think about alternative funding to complete our regular budgets. So we have quite some Interreg projects in which we also enter our new products, or for example, the renovation of our cycling network is completely funded by a European Interreg project. Then, of course, staff. In Westtoer, we have 12 very skilled people that are in charge of the development and the maintenance of all recreational products in our province. This covers the whole process, so from choosing the best paths, making the maps, installing and maintaining the signposting, and also organizing the volunteers, because we are very lucky to have a very enthusiastic group of people who monitor our cycling network for free. They do that every year. There are 3 control periods, and they do a part of the cycling network, and they check if all the signs are correct. If not, we are informed so we can repair it. We have cooperation with online route planners, also on our own website, but we also make physical maps, because for the network, it's really easy to plan the trip at your home. You see the map, you can take all the notes, so we see it's still important for people. Our maps are based on OpenStreetMap. And something that's not completely or only important for the networks, but we think it's very important to try to add an extra layer to the networks, to add extra experience for them, for the cyclists. So we really try to also install at different locations picnic areas, observation points, and so on. So it's a little extra experience during this cycle tour. This is an example of an overview of a few picnic areas that we made. As you see, it's all one kind of style. We developed different picnic benches and tables, and this way we create some uniformity in the province, and also local municipalities, they can buy those equipments themselves. So it's nice to see that in our province, it's all evolving in a bit of the same style of benches and tables. Now, how do we evaluate the success of the network? We are very lucky to have a skilled knowledge center in Westtoer. They did a big quantitative and qualitative study in 2018 to see how the cycling network is used, how many times it is used. And we will repeat this next year when our new network is installed. So some important numbers, if we see the evolution in 2019, there were 5.5 million recreational cyclists on the network. In 24, we are already with 7.3 million. So that's a really big evolution over 6 years. And also very important, certainly for the local stakeholders and the politicians, about the economic return. In our qualitative study, we also did surveys. So we know that people spend by average 20 euros per person. That means that in 2024, we had an economic return of the cyclists on our network of 140 million euros. So these are really big numbers. We also in the survey asked what they were most satisfied about. And it was mainly the quality of the signposting and the many options you have during the planning of your tour. This is an example of the extra experience we try to add to our networks. We had a subvention program. So we gave subsidies to the local municipalities to encourage them to make observation points along the cycling networks. So it could be new observation points, but also church towers that were equipped as an observation point. So these are really nice extras for the cyclists during their tour. Now, as a last slide, some potential for learning. If you make changes in the nodes and in the order of the nodes, the network changes and the physical maps cannot be used anymore. So that's why it's very important that we only make big changes every 10 years. So it's important to plan ahead. And if you make those changes, also take future infrastructure into account. If you know that in 2 years there will be a new cycling bridge, then you also already have to provide the nodes at those places so you don't change the whole network after 2 years. Something I already told you about, but it's so important, not only provide budget for the development, it's mostly easier to find budget for developing new things, but it's so important to also provide sufficient budget for the maintenance. It's a network. It's a lot of work. You can't do everything by yourself. So rely on volunteers. It's really important. And also don't forget to thank them for their engagement. So every year we give them a small present. And every 3 years we organize a big meeting where all the volunteers come together in order to thank them for all their work they are doing. An important point for the local politicians, a cycling network stimulates economic growth. So when you develop the network, try to engage as many as touristic entrepreneurs as possible. Bars, restaurants, hotels, bicycle rental companies, museums, attractions, farm shops who provide picnics. So they all benefit from the network, and it's very important for the economic growth. Also, a cycling network doesn't stop at the border. That's really the big advantage of it. It's a system that it's used in different countries. So if you make a new network or make changes to an existing one, consult with the neighboring regions so that on the route planners, really the borders, they fade. You can just cycle from the Netherlands through Belgium to France without even noticing you cross a border. So that's really a nice advantage of the network. Don't forget to evaluate the network. So we have a lot of counting devices on our network. We do the qualitative studies, we do surveys to know about the cyclists. Who are they? How do they evaluate the network? What is their economic return? It's important to do this follow-up as well. Then think inclusive. Cycling is for everybody. So we try to make sure that parts of our network are also available for everybody. That's the screening that we do in terms of accessibility. And then try to add additional experience for cyclists, the picnic areas, the observation points, and so on. I think this was in a nutshell our good practice. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Veronique, for this really nice presentation. I did like the pictures of your colleagues in the start. Gets a nice emotional feeling to the slides already, and also somehow I can really see the care that you are putting into this as a province. You know, not changing all the time the routes, having these online tools to help plan, accessibility addressed. So it really gets me excited to potentially also visit your region one day and jump on a bike. I see that there are some questions from the audience as well, but I take also the liberty to ask one myself. For you as a province that puts so much care and budget into this, what is the main driver or the main advantage you see in maintaining the cycling route? Is this the economical growth thing that you mentioned at the end, or are there some other dimensions that sort of is the underlying reason why you're working with a pretty large team on this in your province? Yeah.
Well, I think the main reason is cycling. It's very accessible, it's fun, it's healthy, and it's free for everybody. So it's the perfect way to explore the region, to discover our region. So we try to make the best paths available for them, to make it as easy as possible to explore our region. And of course, the economic impact is an important trigger or an important factor to make a decision. So that's also very important. But the main goal is to explore our region, to let that discover in a way that it's available for everybody.
Thank you. And then Erik, I give it to you to moderate the audience questions.
Yes, our audience is active here also. And the question is following a bit what you just said. It's about the funding models for this. As you say, you had very nice figures that have 140 million euros generated, but who pays in the end? Is it you as an organization? Do you have to get money from the province, from local authorities? What's the financial model to make this operate?
We are mainly funded by the province, but as I explained, it's not sufficient to make all the new products that we want to realize. So we submit a lot of European projects, Flemish projects, local provincial projects to gather extra money to do all those new projects. So we have currently 3 Interreg projects in which we are developing new networks, but also 2 provincial projects and 1 Flemish project. So that's we have 2 project managers who are full-time equipped for doing those kind of things.
That's very interesting to me. Really a funding strategy, multi-source funding strategy to ensure sustainability, economic sustainability. When it comes to the marketing, so Elena Papa asks if you had a marketing strategy, if you operate with the marketing strategy for the tourism routes, how do you coordinate marketing in coordination with other organizations, funding organizations, stakeholders?
Well, we have a separate marketing department, so we really work very closely together with them. The basic thought is that we offer the basic product, cycling and walking, and then our marketing department, they try to add the addresses to eat something, to experience something, and then they make a marketing campaign through that. So everything is linked through the cycling and walking. That's really the basic of what we do. And then we try to include all the other touristic entrepreneurs, and we add it in campaigns. So for next year, the big campaign will be the renovation of our cycling network. But then other years, it can be the new hiking networks that we are developing. We're also working about long distance walking trails. That's a new product that we are developing. So then within 2 years, that will be the focus of our marketing department. But we also try to add all the addresses, the little cafes, the musea, the attraction, the picnic areas. So we have a complete story or a complete experience that we can offer.
Excellent. The next question is really closely connected on this relation to all the businesses. How do you have their addresses in your system, but you imagine you then also talk to the persons owning these businesses? How is that organized? Do they somehow become members of something, or are they, well, how do you organize the dialogue basically with all the businesses?
We work in the touristic regions that I told you. So for each region, we have a team that is responsible for managing all the contacts with all the local businesses. So they really know the terrain, they really know the stakeholders. There are different events that organize and bring the people together. We try to encourage them to make use of it. For example, if there is a farm, we encourage them to provide picnics. We put them on our map, on our physical maps. We also have a big database with all those addresses. So they are all on our website. If you make a route, then you see which restaurants, cafes, attractions, musea are on the route. So we try to make it as easy as possible for the people for planning a day or a holiday. And via that database, we try to bring all the data together.
Quite impressive. I can imagine the work behind keeping such a database updated and functional is quite substantial, I can imagine.
Indeed. Or in Westtoer, we are, I think, about 80 people. So we, in our department, we are 16, but all the other departments together and the people from the teams from the different regions. So we are 80 together. So it's quite some organization indeed.
Excellent.
Thank you. I would here actually stop with the questions to Veronique, because we also need to give time for our last presenter to take the stage. So thank you very much, Veronique, for this excellent presentation and answering the questions. Maybe we can still answer the one that came to the chat just last minute now in written. But then I invite Jeroen to talk about the last good practice that we have. So please turn on your camera and share your screen.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you can see my presentation in full screen now.
Not yet. I think you need to make one more click.
Okay, there we are.
Now it's there. Thanks. Excellent.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeroen Vanthournout, and I work as a communication manager for Leidal. Leidal was founded in 1960 by 13 local municipalities in the Contrei region, that is the southwest of Flanders in Belgium. And let's say since then, Leidal has grown into a highly versatile service provider for those municipalities. We work on the development of this region, forever aiming to make it like an attractive place to do business, to work, to live, and to visit. Maybe it's nice to know that Leidal is also a partner in the ongoing Interreg Europe project Cherry. Some of our project partners are present, so let's see some hands or thumbs, which aims to improve policies that strengthen cultural and creative industries. We do that by focusing on themes such as urban transformation, entrepreneurship, and the valorization of a natural and cultural heritage. But today I'm honored to present to you our international art trail, Contrei Life. Actually, Contrei Life is rooted in a broader vision. At the end of 2017, we developed Contrei, which is actually a spatial vision for the region that's situated between the rivers, the Lys and the Scheldt. You see also a little bit on this picture. Well, this vision outlines a sustainable future for the region, addressing like major challenges such as water, climate, energy, mobility, spatial development, and also the preservation of open space. Now, this is the booklet we made for this broad vision on the future. But how do you bring such a large and layered story to a broad audience? That was our question. And then we came together and thought, let's say in 2 years then, since 2018, Leidal would celebrate its 60th birth anniversary. And we said, instead of organizing like a big party full of retrospectives, why not highlight the transformation of our territory through artistic interventions? And so in doing so, we would be giving the region a meaningful gift, something lasting, inspiring, and forward-looking. And so it happened. We had our ambition clearly defined. It was like Contrei Life would be an art trail composed of land art and artistic interventions on specific sites. It would place the landscape in the spotlight in like a very unique way, with the water as a sort of a guide. And we also say like the project aims to spark wonder and foster connection between places, between generations, between citizens and policymakers, and between dreams and action. So then the process unfolded in 2 steps. The first step was like a call for concept proposals based on project briefs we made. And those project briefs provided some context about some specific locations, like what's their link with water, nature, transport, heritage, ongoing or planned developments. So we translated this call in 3 languages and asked artists and designers to submit like the location they wished to realize their intervention, the concept and story behind their project, descriptive text or sketch design, a rough cost estimate, and a brief portfolio. Then step 2 was the development of a full project proposal for which a fixed fee was provided. And then the artists were asked to submit a detailed visual design, a technical and logistical plan for implementation, a clear timeline for delivery, very important, and a detailed cost estimate, including the artist fees. Our open call was spread throughout the globe, like our region with strong partners such as the city of Kortrijk and design region Kortrijk. We are part of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, and this helped in attracting the attention of artists, creatives, and designers all over the world. Because the response was overwhelming, we received 211 submissions from over 30 countries worldwide. Then a jury of experts reviewed the entries, and then we organized some kind of matchmaking between the artists and their proposals and the specific locations. And eventually this led to a final selection of 16 artworks and interventions. And then you ask yourself, but how do you make these works truly accessible to a broad audience? And for that, we partnered with Toerisme Leestreek, with some of Veronique, her colleagues. And together we created like 3 cycling loops. I'm going to get back to some of the artistic interventions, but first the 3 cycling loops of about 50 kilometers each, based on the regional cycling node network, thanks to Westtoer. Thank you, Veronique. Each route allowed visitors to discover about 6 of the artworks. And we also included on the route some highlights, specific extra places, buildings or landscapes with a link to the water, heritage, art or creativity. We also deployed shared bikes at various locations along the routes. And then these cycling maps with some extra information on the artistic interventions were distributed through local tourist information offices and hospitality venues. And then maybe some other highlight. Kortrijk is home to one of the best gaming schools in the world, and we collaborated with 4 students to develop a full-fledged Contrei live game. It cost me some months of my life, I suppose. It took a lot of effort and perseverance, but it turned out to be a fun and valuable addition to the project to attract young people and so on. So we kicked off the art trail at the 9th July of 2020. Does that ring a bell? You probably remember it was the year of COVID. Now, without dwelling too long on the challenges that came with it, I do want to share this. For months, we were faced with a tense and ongoing dilemma. Can we go ahead with this or not? Would the international artists be allowed to travel? Would it be feasible to set up all the installations with all the contractors and stuff like that? It was a really tense time. But on the other hand, I also believe many people were genuinely happy in that period to be able to go outside, to walk, to cycle, and actually to rediscover their own surroundings. And so Contrei Life turned out to be a real boost for local tourism, offering people the chance to explore or re-explore hidden gems in their own region, places they may never have visited otherwise, I think. So quickly some of the interventions, like the floating gardens from French landscape architect Michel Devin, right in the city center of Contrei. A combination of two artistic interventions at the Flax Rotary along the River Lys. It's like a Van Gogh, if you ask me. Then a kinetic installation of Willem Boel, and then the rain amplifier of Matthijs Laroy, a Dutch artist who lives in London. So those are just some of the artistic interventions. We received rave reviews in the press, both nationally and regionally. Like we were like the eye catcher of outdoor art routes that year. And that generates like a big push for economic development, I think. Someone smarter than me once said, for every euro of tax money invested in culture, 2 or 3 euros flow back into the economy. We also saw Contrei Live as an incubator of creative entrepreneurship and a catalyst for a better quality of life. That relies on the ambitions we have in the Cherry project. We have some key indicators of visitors, but maybe a big thanks also to all the project partners involved. That's a bunch of them, like Flemish government, Interreg projects, for 2 or 3 of the installations, but also to set up the shared bike system and so on. So we're very thankful for all the support. A few final thoughts I would like to share with you is if you plan to organize such a art trail, start conversations with potential partners as early as possible, and also approach them with a strong, compelling story. That's so important. Like almost took us 2 years to set up the whole trail. An approach like this, based on site-specific artist interventions, requires also a deep understanding of the region and its most interesting and meaningful places. You have to know them, the links with the water story, with the heritage, with businesses, so strong knowledge. Strive to create experiences by weaving together art, landscape, heritage, movement like the cycling or walking, and hospitality like restaurants, coffee bars and stuff like that. And last final thought is if you would like more tips or advice, don't hesitate to reach out. I would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Again, really, let's say, invitingly presented, that I would like to come and actually see these artworks myself as well. I also somehow, I think when you wake up and see that you have 211 submissions, I think it's probably a mixed feeling. On the one hand side, excellent. On the other hand, now I have to go through the selection process. But this also shows that you were able to contract really high quality artists across the globe. I think we have some audience questions already came in. So Erik, I give the word to you to.
Yes, we do have one very interesting question. Of course, when you create an artwork in a space, you transform the perception of that space. And the question is whether you also in parallel work with rehabilitation of the space. So how do you link the creation of the artwork and local rehabilitation, if any?
Well, there's a large variety on locations we selected. Like our first thought was we aimed really at land art, but that's very difficult because you need a lot of work, like move a lot of the ground and stuff like that. So our first thought was, let's combine work with work. Let's set up an artwork in places where there will be rebuilt some space, or where there's some water that will be reshaped or stuff like that. But that was too difficult. So we had a real interesting variety on locations like this old flax rotary. but also like where there are some challenges on water quality, water quantity. So we saw the water story in a very broad way, and that led to a very interesting combination of spaces and artistic intervention, I think.
Excellent. The other question is more about the time horizons for this artwork. Is it perennial? Do you then have a maintenance, or do you now make another call for the upcoming years to renew the artwork? I think that's interesting too. But how does it evolve over time?
Well, I think some of the proposals were for a temporary intervention, others for a permanent intervention. That also has some consequences for the art for the cost of the intervention. Like we made a selection of some permanent. I think 4 permanent installations. The rest were just temporary. And because it was never our ambition to set up 16 permanent intervention, that would be too costful for us. We made strict contracts with the local governments in maintenance, in ownership, and financial agreements. So let's say if it was to be a permanent intervention, we split the costs 50-50 or something like that. That was a bit the thing. And like for the floating gardens, every year there is some maintenance to check the plants, to see if the chains under the water are still strong enough to keep the islands on their place. And during the 3 months of the art trail itself, we had students biking the routes to check all the installations for safety, vandalism, and other stuff like that.
So great, very nice overview of how it functions. Does that imply you will organize a new call for new temporary artwork now in the years to come? Or?
Well, let's say maybe that's the answer to another question. What's the cost of this art trail? Let's say in total about 800,000 euros or so, coming from some Interreg, most of it Leidal for its 60th birthday instead of the big party with retrospectives and stuff like that. The co-financing of the local governments for the permanent installations, some sponsoring, so altogether 800,000 euros. That's not something we would like to or be able to spend every 2 or 3 years. But let's say in 2030, Leidal is 70 years old. Never say never. Maybe some other story. Contrei was a national candidate to be selected as a European capital of culture in 2030. They weren't selected, but maybe this could be a very nice chance to work together on something in 2030. We'll see about that.
Excellent, thank you.
I think this is a good moment to invite also our other speakers back. So thank you also, Erik, for moderating the chat. And thank you, Jeroen, for answering these specific questions about your practice. So I've been thinking, what would be good to put as a discussion? We have like roughly 10 minutes, and I think something that I'm curious of, and then whoever has a thought on this, please respond. So basically, the story is that we had a peer review, that I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. We had it in Cesis in rural Latvia, and we had experts also coming from across Europe. And we had a colleague coming from Spain, Asturias, working with an eco-museum, which means that they really work with the local heritage, local community, trying to valorize this very specific place in a small town or village. And then, but they're also on the somehow close to a very popular trail or a biking route. And his critique is that the people that go on that route often do not know the villages they're passing and don't really engage with the heritage that they are somehow could be could engage with, because they are somehow focused on the goal of the going through the trail, you know, the kilometers, the speed, the photos you make after you've completed this. So I'm just curious, because some of you touched about this, how do we really enable or how can we direct then the people who are on these routes to do visit the local you know, baker, the local whatever craft center, or go to the local museum to understand a bit more of the local heritage. So what has worked well for you, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that our example of the network is then a nice example because it's not one linear route. So it's a network, and upon planning, we notice that people really take into account that they, thanks to the maps, they see where is the center of the village. Are there bars there? Is there a museum there? Is there a picnic area there? So because it's a network, they are free to plan their own route, and they can choose themselves the attractions or the stops that they want to do. So I think that's one of the main advantages of the network, that the variety of choices you have enables you to choose a cycling tour with all the things that you find important. And for somebody, it can be a museum. For other people, it can be they want a good restaurant and they want a nice cafe. Or for others, it's just they want nature. They want to pass by an information center that can learn them more about the landscapes. So that's the advantage. I think the main advantage of a cycling network.
It's just like a menu that they can select and tailor to their own needs. Any comment or reaction from Crina and Jeroen on this? Like, how do we then make sure that the person gets off the trail for a moment to explore the local culture in some way and maybe spend money locally? Because if you talk about economic impact as well, how do we get there? Yeah, Jeroen, I see you.
Well, like our cycling routes were somehow more temporary. And thanks to the cooperation with Tourism Leidal, we had like on every cycling route, like 30 points, from which only 6 were like the artistic interventions, but also some interesting site visits you could do, and also hospitality, so restaurants, coffee bars and stuff like that. They were really put on the map. So it was, and also the cycling routes were 50 kilometers, so that asks for a coffee or a lunch break or something that could help too.
Yes, please, Crina.
Yes, if I could add, well, in terms of our cultural roots, I would say that an important aspect in all of this, like inviting visitors to the parts, not only the main, let's say, the end point of the trail, is to implement a good infrastructure, first of all, because it's important for the visitors, pilgrims, to have good infrastructure, that they could stop somewhere and, I don't know, to have a good hotel, to have a good coffee, and so on. We have the examples from cultural routes where, for example, there was no bakery in some, for example, in some villages. This is mostly the case of Via Francigena, because this culture starts from Canterbury in England, and it ends in south of Italy. And in some small village, there was no bakery, but because of these visitors, of the pilgrims, for example, a bakery was born, let's say. So yeah, it's important to give a good infrastructure for visitors.
Thanks. And somehow it rings this cliche saying that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. My second question to all of you is, because we talked about this, let's say the economic impact side of things, but what about this, the benefits for the local community? So how do you see that, and this is something we come across a lot when we discuss tourism also in Interreg Europe. So how do you see the routes contributing or playing to this strengthened sense of place or local identity, and also maybe local cooperation? So any and I know that Veronique, you also had I think you already had some thoughts on this, which you exchanged over email, but others are also of course welcome to say. So how does this connection between developing a route and local identity, how does that come into play? And
well, I think for the network, the nice thing is that it's not only developed for the visitors, it's also and maybe also mainly developed for the people from the region itself that want to explore the region. Jeroen already talked about the COVID period. There was an immense demand of walking opportunities, cycling opportunities. So thanks to that period, how heavy it was, a lot of people from the own region were able to discover their own region thanks to the network. Also, the picnic areas that we install, it's not only for the visitors, it's also for a family that wants to do a small tour. They take their picnic with them. So really everything we do for the visitors is equally important and can equally be used by the inhabitants of the region.
Crina, you want to add something? I see that you're unmuted.
Yes, I just wanted to add regarding this that, well, as already mentioned in my presentation, about the typology of members of cultural roots. So it's very important to have this variety of local authorities, of cultural institutions, of museums, of public authorities and tourism offices. And of course, this way, let's say, having this typology of members, they could decide what is better, first of all, for them, and to create, of course, new workplaces. So yeah, I would say the first important aspect in all of this is this community involvement, having the opportunity to hear everybody, not only some types of stakeholders.
So if I understand correctly, for you, in granting somebody the status of cultural route, it already implies that you involve a lot of members and it's somehow, developed jointly.
Yes. So here, just to tell you that, well, a cultural route has members from different countries. Some of them, they have members, I don't know, for 20 European countries. And each members from this specific, for example, 20 countries, they are museums, cultural institutions, associations, municipalities. So they have general assemblies, they meet, and of course, they decide how to better implement the certification criteria and to create new opportunities for sustainable development, and of course, to involve the local community. The local artisans, of course. So all of this is important.
And maybe it's the same question to Jeroen, and I think also Erik was touching about it a bit. But in your case, because you were selecting these artworks, as something new, physical, coming to the territory, how much and how did you collaborate with the local residents and sort of their understanding of the place and identity when deciding which one to choose and where it should go? And
well, local communities, besides of the local governments, were not implicated in the selection of the works or the sites. But to us, it was we saw that many of the inhabitants rediscovered some places very close, very nearby, that they had almost forgotten. Nonetheless, those specific places have a strong link with heritage or water or a really meaningful place. But it was also our attempt to set up a dialogue on those places, the history, the past, the present, but also the future of those places. And I think that worked. Like, one of the interventions was like a big plaque in a nature site that was like a fake plaque of a project developer that would build a huge building there, right in the middle of nature, and we lack open space in our region. So that, and it was very nice to see that this started the dialogue on Facebook, on other online places, but also at the place itself. And like one of the older men who was responsible for space and infrastructure, he said, just, I'm not reacting to those reactions, just let the dialogue go its way. And only after 2 weeks, we made clear that this was an artistic intervention and not just a new project that would be developed in the middle of nature. So in involving local people, that can count, I think. It's not only for economic development, but also to start up a dialogue with citizens and other stakeholders on very important things that concern our future.
That's a really interesting example. So thank you for bringing this case as well, but still as an art, as also a stimulator of local discussions and dialogue around identity and what we want of this place and how we see this place.
This is also, if I may, Mart, connected to one of the questions from the audience on multimedia tools. You talked about the Facebook page being stimulated, but more generally, do you have good examples of good practice when it comes to tools, multimedia tools, digital tools being developed in parallel? Veronique, you mentioned, of course, that the Node online exploration of Node is actively used by the visitors. Do you have any other good practices you'd like to mention in relation to that, to reply to our audience question?
Maybe it's important to clarify about our starting point is that we Westtoer, as part of the province, we provide the basic infrastructure. We provide the network, the nodes, we make sure they are well maintained, but then afterwards our data is freely shared with everybody that wants to do something with it. So it's really up to the market. That's a bit how we think about it, to make use of everything that we provide them, and then to develop tools, to develop route planners, to develop other. So it's not our job to develop those tools themselves. We develop the basic, we make sure that the quality is perfect, and then it's up to the market and the external parties to hop in.
I think that's a very useful input. Jeroen, yours.
Maybe one more thing. We are like UNESCO Creative Cities Network member. We like to experiment, and that's why we set up like this Contrei Live game that was available on the App Store and stuff like that. So that's one thing. It's also important to share your cycling routes through GPX or other things that people can download on their Garmin or stuff like that. Social media, QR codes with videos or renders that change and that show the future perspective and stuff like that. So my advice is just go ahead and experiment and try to innovate in those things too. There's a whole virtual world in front of us. So
thank you. As our time is coming to the end, there are plenty more questions. I could chat with you, I think, for another half an hour at least, if not longer. So I hope we do get to see you and meet you again in our other events. But really a great big thank you to Crina, to Jeroen, to Veronique for this excellent exchange. Thank you also for our audience for being so active with us today on the chat. I hope you got your answers to the questions, and I hope this has inspired you to take the next steps in your regions in planning trails and routes as a form of tourism promotion. And then, of course, don't hesitate to explore these practices further. Go on their websites, maybe plan your own route visiting Flanders, and of course already this links shared by Crina on how could one become part of the cultural routes of the Council of Europe, whether as a university, as somebody that joins an existing route, or somebody that applies for a new route. So thank you, everybody, and I wish
please,
you.
And then just remember, there is a small survey that will pop up now just after closure. We'd very much appreciate your feedback on the survey. Yes, this pops up automatically when you close Zoom. It has, I think, 5 questions, so don't hesitate to give us feedback so that we would know how to make better webinars in the future. But with this, I wish you a great Friday afternoon and a relaxing weekend ahead.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.